Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. All right, welcome back to DubLife Diaries. I am so excited for this episode tonight. The vibe is right. I got the car, I got the Grim Reaper, I got all this stuff. This is going to be a good one. Now, some people buy cars to keep them perfect. Climate-controlled garage, microfiber towels, don't touch it, don't drive it, don't even risk it. Not this guy. Our guest tonight said no, no, no. John Krahulec is towing a fully restored 67 Volkswagen Beetle, by the way, a car older than most people probably listening, behind a brand new Ford Bronco Raptor across 7,000 miles of America into Mexico, through the Baja desert terrain, and then back home down Route 66 during its centennial year. Not for a race, not even for a record, but because of a phrase that most people avoid even thinking about. That phrase is Memento Mori. It's a Latin phrase for remember you must die. And what it really means is living with urgency, prioritizing what truly matters, letting go of ego and trivial concerns, making peace with mortality, which John reminded me, we're all getting older, and that'll probably resonate with a lot of us that are listening now. Instead of hearing that as something that would be dark and grim, John heard it as a green light to go, go, go. So he built a 3-vehicle fleet with names straight up out of a graphic novel. The Grim One, the Gray Ghost, the Reaper's Chariot. We got a modern off-road monster, an air-cooled automotive time capsule, and an open trailer that hides nothing, just like the idea behind this trip. This isn't a car show tour. This is actually about using machines the way they were designed and meant to be used. Day after day, heat, dust, breakdown risk, uncertainty, all of the above. And here's the wild part. This whole journey started with a Volkswagen, the kind of car that turns drivers into lifers, the kind of car that makes you a dubber before you even realize it. And now that same car is gracing the pages of Volksmania magazine. We're about to cross deserts, coastlines, and decades of automotive history into one continuous story. This is what happens when responsibility, passion, and mortality all sit in the same driver's seat. John Krahulec, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Thank you. Thank you. I got to say, I'm impressed with me after hearing you talk about me. That was amazing.
Oh, man. Thank you.
I could bring you as my wingman all the time. Hey, I should bring you on this trip with us.
Oh, that's awesome. Real quick, before we get going, I do want to give a shout out to a couple of sponsors. First up on the list, you guys know how I feel about Volksmania magazine. I feel these guys are the flyest VW production on the face of the planet. I am not the only one. Best people out there, best quality out there. In my opinion, Paul is the man, and the whole team. www.volksmania.com. You guys can use DubLife 10 if you're in the US for subscription, and you'll get 10% off of your first issue. Also, shout out to the Salty Dub. From the beach to the bay, Salty Dub is tearing up the VW coastal scene down here on the west coast of Central Florida. SaltyDub.com. There's a lot of merch and cool stuff on the website. Same discount code applies, DubLife 10. So use that when you check out. We got sunglasses, keychains, all kinds of cool stuff on there. Check those guys out, saltydub.com. All right, my friend. I'm done. I'm done with the shout outs and everything else. Now it's all over you. Back to you. Back to you. What's up, man?
Oh, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Thank you for taking the time to register, to tell me your story, and just to spend your time with me. We appreciate it. The community appreciates it.
I love promoting the community. Like we were talking earlier, we're obviously all in, and we're going to keep sharing stories and being part of it, but we got to keep doing this and make it fun so we can groom the next generation.
That's right.
I don't want this to ever end.
No, me
We
either.
might end, but I don't want this to end.
I don't think it
So,
will. We just got to keep telling these stories the way we're doing it.
yep. Well,
All right,
I
man.
got lots of great stories for you today. So,
Well, let's touch on this. Let's touch on this very first part here. When did the idea of the Memento Mori run first hit you?
the whole thing started in October when an old high school buddy reached out to me and suggested I bring my Bronco Raptor to this event organized by a group called Expedition X Off-Road. They're doing this event called Baja Mitad, which stands for basically half of Baja. So it will go halfway down Baja. Um, so it's 5 days of extreme off-roading, going down and back up to California. Um, He'd been following my Bronco and Beetle posts, kind of dabbling in social media, so he saw a lot of my cool stuff there, and he thought I'd be a good fit. Aside from me being on the opposite side of the country, we'll figure that out. So, that was back in October. So I molded over for about 2 months, uh, mostly just kind of making sure the timing worked at home. And when my wife didn't really flinch, I pulled the trigger. So, and as soon as I did, almost immediately, my first thought was, all right, how do I bring my bug into this? Because I'm going to Southern California. I gotta. I spent a little time out there as a teenager, so
Y'all can see it behind me. It's beautiful.
yeah, it's a kind of it's going to turn into a little reunion tour for me here. So anyway, that's when this whole trip planning escalated. If you know me, I don't just do the thing. I'm going to do that and a whole bunch more. So what started as a Bronco trip turned into a 4-chapter automotive adventure, which I'll dig into all that. Um, so the first is the westbound leg. It wasn't just going from Virginia to San Diego. Of course, I got to look it up and see what all I can do during this trip. So I found VW shows, automotive museums, friends along the way. When I first posted on my social media accounts that I was kind of thinking of this, I had friends all the way from Alabama, Texas, Austin, El Paso, Phoenix, Tucson, the whole way, which happened to be along my route, reaching out, going, dude, give me a call when you come through. So, uh, so that's the first chapter, or I'm calling them acts. Act one. Then act two is pure all of Baja. That's that 5-day event. Uh, and I should be clear there. I drop off the bug. I'm not I'm not doing off-road jumps in my Bronco with my trailer and the bug bouncing around behind
That's a picture.
me. So I'll drop that off, go do Baja. Then I come back, and that's where I get to wind down and just get the Southern California vibe going. I'll
Mm.
park the Bronco. I don't know if I'm parking it or it's in limp mode. I don't know what condition it'll be in when I get back, but I'm gonna hop into that bug. And you would think, okay, I'm just gonna drive around. No, I got a whole laundry list of stuff to do when I'm over in Southern California, and I'll get into that later. It's hard for me not to just spill all the beans now, kind of save some of it for the rest. Um, and then there's the return home, and I'm not just doing a long, slow drudge of a drive home. I got a lot of cool stuff planned for that too. It's coming back. I'm part of Route 66, and it
Yeah.
just happens to be their centennial year. So
Yes.
there's all kinds of celebrations going on. Um, and then I'm finishing. I got a couple buddies. They're gonna fly in and meet me in Lexington, Kentucky, so we can do a couple days on the Bourbon Trail. So you keep peeling back the onion on this trip, and there's so much to unpack on this. So
I want to know why the name. Why Memento Mori? That seems like such a heavy, heavy name, heavy phrase to put behind a car trip. Usually when we get in the car, the last thing we want to think about is we're gonna die.
yeah, yeah. You're right. It literally translates, as you said, remember you must die. And obviously, it sounds dark at first, but for me, it's never been about fearing death. It's about remembering time is finite. Driving across the country,
So really,
using
it's remember you must live.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, same. Everyone talks about YOLO. You only live once.
Yeah.
No, you live every day. You only die once.
Yeah.
You gotta flip that
Dang.
around. So, So driving across country using these vehicles, I've got some awesome cars and I use them. I absolutely use them for what they're meant to be used for. So I look at it as just kind of showing up instead of always postponing doing something, doing that thing. I'm doing them. So that's how I honor that idea of memento mori.
So
Um,
your background, business owner, you're a COO, you're a dad, you were just describing you're a newlywed. How do these worlds kind of coexist for you?
Actually, they coexist pretty easily. I'll start with the COO part. That's the simplest, I guess. I started my company 27 years ago. We've built a strong set of systems and processes, have solid leadership team and a culture that doesn't depend on me kind of micromanaging every decision. So
Nice.
things will keep humming while I'm gone.
Yeah.
Uh, my two kids, they're grown and on their own, officially off the family payroll. So that helps. I remarried a year ago. My wife, love her to death. She's got two beautiful younger daughters. Like there's at least a 10-year age difference between my youngest and her oldest. So, I'm back in the the throngs of being a dad again. But her daughters are deeply involved in competitive dance. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's a crazy, crazy intense world. They're always at practices and competitions and travel. So life doesn't pause for them. Um, so they're going to be busy while I'm gone. In fact, when I floated the idea about this trip, I said, listen, the halfway point of the trip, I'll be just coming back from Baja. I'll fly you guys all out to San Diego. We'll make a big thing of the weekend. But it turns out they had a dance competition that weekend. So life's
In
busy either way.
in Southern California?
No, no, their
Oh,
dance
okay. I was gonna
competitions like
say, whoa, dude, that's what I
is
call coexisting.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. I would have bought them first class tickets, flew them out there, and we would have made a big time out of it. But yeah, no, they're a dance competition over on the East Coast. So, like I say, life gets busy, and I'm trying not to let that impede things.
Do you think that a structured corporate life fuels your need for adventure?
I don't think structure fuels it. I think it enables it. Structure doesn't have to be a cage if it's done right. It's what
Ooh,
makes freedom possible. I run my company with the same way I approach this trip, with everything I approach. Build strong systems, surround yourself with good people, prepare thoroughly, and then trust what you've built. So when that foundation is solid, you can pursue meaningful experiences without compromising what matters.
wow, well
So
said. What'd your family say when you told them about this? I mean, I know you kind of already touched on it a little bit, but let's dive in a little deeper. What'd they say when you told them that this, was something that you were serious about?
at first, it didn't fully register. And let me jump back with a story here. I want to say it was last summer, last fall. I had the opportunity. Well, I wouldn't say I had the opportunity, but I found out about a group that was organizing an event taking VWs over to Europe, driving around Germany, going to a car show, hitting Brussels. As soon as I saw it, I was all in. In fact, I baited my wife in. I was like, "Hey, babe, how would you feel if I took you to Europe next summer?" And she's like, "Yeah, great." I'm like, "And I might bring the bug." And she's like, rolled her eyes. So I was following that for a little bit, and then it just kind of faded away. I couldn't find any more information about it. So I was like, I kind of was amped up, and then it just disappeared. And then I want to say back in October, November, a buddy that I'd met at a VW show, he goes by Kahlua VW. You may be familiar with it. He contacted me and said, "Hey, we're gonna ship a bunch of cars down to the Virgin Islands bug out. Do you want to come? We've got it all lined out, logistics. It's the week between Christmas and New Year's." I'm like, I'm in, I'm listening. But when I found out the full logistics, like they were sending the cars down earlier, you had to get down to Florida and I'd have to go down there and then come back and just to drop off the car and then fly down to the event. And then whenever the vehicle ships back to the States, I got to go down there and pick it up. So logistically, it didn't work out. So my appetite was whetted. I was all in on the concept of taking this
Something.
bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
And then when my friend approached me about this Baja event with the Bronco, I was like, I'm going to make my own adventure. So,
Here
yeah.
we are. What age in your life, in your whole background and in your story, when did you realize that you were a dubber?
Volkswagens have been a part of my life since before I could even walk. When we moved from Hawaii to Virginia, military brat, my parents had Beetles shipped from Hawaii. My mom and my dad each had their own Beetle. And as soon as we got to Virginia, there was some advertising company promoting these automotive billboards. And I don't know if you remember in the 70s, you might be too young. I don't know. You're a little younger than me. Um,
I
you
remember
would
the
get
80s. 80s, I was
yeah,
old enough to remember. 77, I was born. So there you have it.
there were these advertising companies that would pay you and they would keep track of the mileage on your car. You had to go back in and see how many miles you're driving. They paid you by the miles and they would wrap your car with some promotional stuff. So our family had one that was wrapped for cool cigarettes and the other was A&W root beer.
Cool cigarettes. I remember those.
Bright colors, they were rolling billboards. You couldn't miss these things. So those cars were loud in personality before I even knew what personality meant.
Wow.
And then after that, my brother's first car was a Beetle. Then he had a Scirocco. Then we spent summers out in LA staying with my dad. And that's when I was first smitten by the cow look bugs. So in our family, Volkswagens weren't just transportation. They were an identity for us.
Wow. So it's pretty safe to say then you probably owned others before this 67, right?
Well, we'll peel this layer of the onion back here. So around 1985, 1986, I got my first 67 bug. It was black. It was beautiful. I loved that thing. The previous owner, it was a friend I went to high school with, they had installed a 69 engine in it and bored it out to like something like 1900 cc. So back then, in the mid 80s, that was a pretty good go at modifying a bug. Um, however, uh, in 1991, I just graduated college. I'm literally on my way home from college, got all my stuff in my bug, and it broke down on I-81 in Virginia. I just graduated. I had no job. I had no money. I ended up having to sell it for $50 just to make minimum payments on my credit cards.
Oh my God, dude.
You,
50
you,
bucks. Those were the days.
you make mistakes all your life.
Yeah.
You rarely think about one all your life. And that's the one that I regret. That hurt.
Wow. Okay.
I've owned lots of cars since then. None of them, none of them do I miss or wish I could get back like that one.
Dang,
So,
man. It reminds me of my first. I had a 72. I was 16. I bought it for 2 grand or so in the Tyrone Square Mall parking lot, which, that was cheap for us back then. I'd only had to work for like 8 weeks or 10 weeks and I was able to pay cash for it. But I think about that car all the time. It was the most reliable, fun. It was an auto stick, and I used to take it. If you know Florida at all, I live in St. Pete, West Coast, Central Florida. But me and my buddies used to surf, and there really isn't that much of a swell around here. You have to go down south, or you have to go to the East Coast to get to
right.
the good waves. So at first, my buddies, when I had this car, they'd be like, dude, I'm not, no, we're not getting in the inner. I'm not going over the skyway and that thing. I'm not getting in the interstate and jump with, no, forget that. Right. And then fast forward a year or two, this thing's made 15, 20, 30 East Coast trips. And these boys are like, yo, we taking the Beetle? So anyway, I
Yep.
miss that car tremendously as well.
So you asked about previous Volkswagens.
Yeah.
So later in the mid 90s, finally had gotten a job, doing a little better, and I tried again with VWs. Had the Volkswagen Passat. The first one didn't work out so well. Volkswagen bought it back before it could be officially declared a lemon. Then they got into another one, thinking, all right, the next one will be okay. Well, I got
Oh
rear-ended at a
no.
stoplight. so
Oh
bad. It hit me
gosh.
into a car, hit me into the next two cars.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was totaled before I even made the sixth payment.
Oh, dude.
So at
Ugh.
that point, I knew the universe didn't want me in a VW.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. About the air-cooled ones, though. What do you think it is about air-cooled VWs that maybe modern cars don't give you?
Air cooled,
Yeah.
simplicity, man. Participation, the presence. You have to, well, first of all, they vibrate, they smell, they make noise, they
Yes.
demand your attention. You can't text while driving one,
Oh, you
so
gotta
that's a
drive.
plus.
Yeah. You gotta
Uh,
drive them.
so when you're driving, you're involved in it. So, and really, I'll take a turn on it, not just about the car. They connect you to people. When I got when I went out for nostalgic purposes and got myself another one, it was for me. I did not realize how much it was going to impact other people when I started rolling through the neighborhoods or on highways in that bug. Um, when I got it within the first month of taking possession, I had it brought back from California before I started customizing it myself. I took it to a pretty around here in Virginia, a pretty famous uh, cars and coffee called Katie's Cars and Coffee. It's a pretty big event. I think a few years ago, Jay Leno flew out to it just to come check it out.
Wait.
Um, so I show up. My buddy who talked me into going to it, he had his it's like a 1985 convertible Mercedes SL. It's pristine, just cherry condition. So I parked between him and a guy in a Morgan convertible. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's also a very iconic two-door, long. It's got pipes out the hood. Um, so I'm parked between them and I'm setting up. I'm kind of polishing my car, and immediately people are swarming around talking about the bug, telling me their life stories. It's amazing. I was not prepared for it. I thought I was going to have to be explaining, why'd you bring a bug to the car show? People were swarming around. But after about 30 minutes, the guy in the Morgan packed up his gear like in a huff and just almost peeled out left. And I turned to my buddy with the Mercedes. I was like, what's up with that? He said, well, he was angry because apparently the crowd was all around my Beetle the whole time and nobody had asked him a single question about his exotic car.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's when it hit me for the car crowd. You don't have to have a prestigious car. It's about memories.
Mm.
A Beetle reminds people of something. It's either your parents, your first car, or a road trip. So it
Oh,
opens doors to conversation.
I got goosebumps. Yes. And you're right. That's exactly right, man. And again, part of the motivation behind starting this podcast is the stories. It's the stories that come out behind us sharing these experiences. And I tell you, you don't even really have to own one currently to relic in these stories and to have a whole lifetime full of them. But let's touch on this 67, right? The 67 Beetle, the gray ghost, the emotional centerpiece. Give us the story there.
In the most simplest terms, the story is unfinished business. I mentioned how I had to let go of my first car. I thought about it all the time, but never ever occurred to me I should jump into it. And it had been well over 30 years.
Wow.
So back in late 2023, I don't know what it was, but something hit me hard. The nostalgia. Maybe something popped up on Facebook. I don't remember, I've been on Facebook forever. I don't remember ever seeing bugs. I don't remember seeing anything, but all of a sudden one popped up and I was like, huh. So I started thinking about it and I went back to my mom's house looking for the VIN of my first 67. I was ready to search the ends of the earth to figure out where that was, but it
Wow.
was all paperwork back then. I couldn't find it. I didn't know how to track it down. And so I never found the VIN. Kind of quickly made peace with the fact that I wasn't getting that car back. And I started thinking, well, I could just get an old one and start working on it as a project car. I got some skills. I could do something. But then I realized what I was going to do wasn't going to be a replacement of that car. I'm going to go at it. I'm going to go hard at this. And it's not me trying to relive high school. This is a redemption. This is a redemption arc, though. So the name Gray Ghost came from that feeling. So the colors you can see behind you, that's a Porsche agate metallic silver. It's beautiful, uh,
Yes, it is.
beautiful color. And I started thinking through it. Getting rid of that first car, that first 67 has haunted me forever. And I started thinking haunting, ghosts. That's where I landed with the Gray Ghost. I'm jumping back into it, and I'm going to bring one back to life, bring it back into my life, and I'm going to do it on my terms. So I lost that first car because I didn't have the money, the stability, and the means to keep it back then. But this time I do. And I'm not going to let it slip through my hands again.
Awesome. So tell us what's been changed from stock on this Beetle. I mean, I can already I'm excited. I'm almost watering in my mouth, anticipating hearing what this build has shaped up to be thus far.
Up top, to a casual observer, not much. People look at it and they're like, "Wow, that's so different." To someone in the Volkswagen world, they're like, yeah, there's something different with this. There's something going on here." So up top, it's still classic, timeless, kind of period correct if you're not really into the bug world. Like, oh, I see chrome bumpers and it's still got the all the parts of it and everything's still there. But underneath, what did I change? Everything. It was turnkey, ready to go when I picked it up in California, and I thought that was enough. But when I bought it, it was airbagged, so not stock. It had that slow and low look, and it's awesome. I've always seen it online. I was like, that looks cool. And it works in California, but once I got it back here to the East Coast on our roads, over 40 miles per hour, you're getting in this crazy traffic around here. Over 40, it feels like you're driving a water mattress. So it definitely didn't work with the way I drive either. Uh, so immediately, I think I had it 3 months and I was like, we're making a change. So the first thing I started was pulling that suspension out. And I did a lot of research to figure out where I ultimately landed. So I installed a full front and rear suspension setup from Cool Rides Customs out in San Diego, Chula Vista. And that was not a bolt-on system. That took a lot. And then I was like, all right, it's going to include Wildwood disc brakes all around, but the bolt patterns changed, so I got to get new rims. So I went to Shot Wheels out of LA, got some sweet rail cover locks, and I wrapped them in some serious Firestone rubber. Um, yeah, that those have some grip. And then once you get all that done, you realize you modernize your suspension and get some real grip. Well, that 1776 cc engine that came with my car just wasn't going to cut it. It seemed fine on the previous tires and all that. It could peel out. This one wouldn't even budge making those tires peel out. So, after a little more research, I reached out to John Randolph out at Powerhouse VW in LA. I called him and I let them upsell me. Actually, I wanted them to upsell me. Um, so we landed on a 2387cc with dual 48 IDFs and
Ha,
belting out on the A1 Sidewinder exhaust.
dude, that
Really,
thing's
the only way I could have gone any
rocking.
higher was to just slap on a turbo, and I wasn't ready to bite. I wasn't going to chew on that. I don't know anything about maintaining the turbo on an air-cooled engine, so luckily I knew my limits. So
Wow.
anyway, a lot of underneath stuff, but up top, it still looks classic. It's a head turner. It's amazing. I wasn't prepared for just driving down the roads or driving through the town center right behind our house. People are walking, stop, pulling out their cameras, and I can see them. They're not being discreet. They're like videotaping me and waving and pointing, and it's the coolest feeling, man.
It's a vibe for sure. We all
So,
recognize that, all of us in the community, most of them listening to this podcast, we recognize that feeling. We ride in our dubs for the same feeling and for the same reason.
yep.
Some of us don't have engine and suspension like that though.
Yeah. Well, it still looks classic from afar, but now it moves like it means it, man.
Let's touch on this because I know this is going to be a fun part of the conversation. Featured in Volksmania 25. I mean, let's first touch on how that came about.
Yeah. Let me back up a little bit. So
Okay.
when I got back into the VW scene, I knew I was getting one. I thought, all right, there's got to be so much change. I got to brush up, and I'm gonna go what I remembered. I went to the Barnes and Noble looking for. I didn't know if those magazines were still out there, VW Trends and Hot VWs, and I go up and I roll up on the magazine rack. I'm looking in the car section, and I'm like, there's probably nothing Volkswagen anymore. And I see Volksmania. I'm like, I, I don't remember this. I've never heard of it. So I picked it up, and I still to this day, it's been a couple of years now. As soon as I felt that magazine, I'm like, this is not just a cheap rag. This is quality print. So at our Barnes and Noble, they've got a bar in it, so you can take stuff off the magazine rack and go sit at the bar and order a drink and thumb through. And my adrenaline's rushing, my heart's racing. I felt like I was back in high school, and I would get my VW magazines and I'd instantly go through and read the articles, and I'd look at all the ads to find out what are all the new parts, what's the latest and greatest components, and I'm taking notes, and I'm like, oh my God. And I just finished the magazine. I'd finished a couple drinks. I'm like thinking, all right, well, you're allowed to put the magazine back on the rack, but I thought, hell, I'm still gonna buy it. Like I consumed that whole magazine and I'm still buying it. And I took it home and immediately I go to the website and I subscribed right then and there. And then I get on Facebook, I follow them, and I just shoot a note to them saying, this is a beautiful magazine. I'm hooked, or subscribed. Within the same day, Paul Cave replied back to me. Thank you, buddy. I love that feedback. And I was like, wow, I just interacted with the guy who runs this magazine. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, so that's my first exposure to Volksmania.
Okay.
Subscriber, following. I love how he keeps everyone abreast about the production of each issue.
Yes, dude.
Last fall, he posted a note on Facebook asking he had a little bit of space to round out this issue number 25 if you want yours submitted. So I was like, yeah. So I started, I was looking what he was asking for. He's like, send a bunch of pictures, do a little write up. And I didn't want to just say, here's the specs, here's a couple pictures. I took that time and I was like, it's my one shot. I'm gonna give it my all. I wanted to be in it so bad. So I wrote this compelling story and I revised it and I'd sit on it for a day or two and I'd go back and read it and keep making edits. And I was like, this looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna submit this. And I submit it, and then I don't know, maybe that same day he replies back, goes, this looks great. We're going to run with it. I'm like, cool. Like, do you need edits? He goes, dude, the story is perfect. Like, he took it the way I wrote it, the pictures I sent.
So you have 25. Tell me,
Yep. I actually have it right here.
describe the feeling, like you just did, being in Barnes and Noble. Describe the feeling now, holding that issue number 25, now seeing your car in print.
All right. It's surreal. Well, from the moment I got the note back from him saying, basically, yeah, we're going to run this. And I was like, am I going to get a little tiny picture in the corner of the back index area or something? No, 4 pages. Um, so seeing the proofs, everything before it went to print, hearing they'd selected my submission, seeing the proofs, knowing it was about to go in the mail every step of the way, the anticipation was, I was dying. Um, but then holding it in my hands felt different. Definitely different than seeing it posted online. Like I saw the proofs, all this stuff, but I had a chance to buy additional copies. So I bought like 6 or 7 extra, and they drop shipped that in a separate UPS box. So that got here way before the subscription copy did. Um, it was amazing. I felt archived, like a bookmark in time at that point. So it wasn't just about a car and a magazine. It was about the kid who sold his first 67 for $50 because he didn't have the money to keep it. Um, so now looking at, I fully realized my build documented in print, everything came full circle. And it wasn't, I guess it wasn't ego, it was more gratitude.
I've had a ton of cars, ton of dubs. Never had one of them in 4 pages of a magazine. And I've got my own magazine story that I'll share because some listeners haven't heard this, but my experience with Volksmania and with Paul Cave, some of you know, some of you don't. I'll share it though, and I'll make it fast because this isn't about me. But I just want to relate to you that Paul's just a cool, very cool, humble guy. So I started this podcast just 13, 14 months ago. And when I had the idea to start it October of 24, a year, 14 months ago or so, I had this thought of, how am I going to get, the word out? I don't do anything small when it comes to production, or anything that has my name on it, especially from a performance standpoint, because my whole background, I'm first place, and that's what I do. I'm a performer, I'm a sales trainer. I teach people how to excel in these types of environments. So I said to myself, how can I start this thing and get the word out right away, worldwide? How can I dominate? Well, best way is going to be what I remember from the, 80s and 90s. You got to get in the magazines. There's still some pretty awesome magazines out there. So I contact all of them. I mean, I even went to, I believe there's one called Hayburner or Haybarner overseas. I even went to them. I went to all of them, and just like you said, Paul Cave responds before anybody else does. Actually, he's the only one that responds,
Yep.
and he says, "You know what, man? I'm not gonna, talk to you about what it's gonna cost you for advertising. Instead." I'm just going to sponsor your podcast. And what you got to do for that is you got to write me up a feature off of one of your episodes or two of your episodes for each issue. I'm like, skirt, hold on. What?
Yeah.
So, this magazine's worldwide. I was almost beside myself because you got to be careful what you wish for sometimes because it just might happen. And with this, it did. So I kind of knew that I was walking in the journey I was supposed to be in and be on. And, when things start to kind of unfold and come, I'm not going to say easy because I'm the one that reached out and had the grit and determination in me to not just start it, but then to put myself out there and, put myself out there. I got what I wished for and beyond. I mean, Paul literally made, a dream come true. Same thing you're describing with, being a young man, losing that car and then, getting it back and having this amazing build and getting a feature, getting a multi-page. And he don't play with the features. He
Yeah.
don't give you one little quarter of one page. It gives you four
Yep.
color pages, and it's just
Yeah.
the wow factor is intense. And this magazine is so sick. If you haven't, please do yourself a favor. Quit slacking. Get yourself Volksmania. All right, enough of
Yeah.
me.
And
Back to
and
you.
and at four pages, I wasn't even in the feature one. Like there's, I think, four other featured ones that have
That are
way
like
more
six
pages.
pages.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when he says, "Oh yeah, I need to fill in some space," I literally thought I was going to get a quarter of a page or something.
Right. That's my point. That's my point. Yeah, for sure, man. Awesome guy, awesome magazine. Can't say enough good things about them. I'm grateful and I'm humble that, they still allow me to do what I'm doing and really give me this platform, this stage. I've been downloaded probably close to 150,000 times. I'm up to about 74 countries that listen to this
Wow.
podcast. It's
Now you're making me nervous.
absolutely nuts to have the podcast software that I have and to see the traction that it gets. I just hope that people are smiling like I am, man, because what a cool thing. Seeing the car in print. Tell me, did the moment for you, did it feel like validation? Did it feel like motivation? Tell me what part of your build story resonated most.
Honestly, for about 30 seconds, it felt like validation. I was like, yeah. When that UPS box arrived with all my extra copies I'd ordered because I was going to show friends and family. And I opened it up and immediately thought of the movie The Jerk with Steve Martin when he sees his name in the phone book and he yells, "I'm somebody now."
I'm somebody now!
That was my exact internal reaction.
Oh, that's
So
awesome, man. I love
I
Steve Martin.
actually, on my Instagram account, just for my Grey Ghost, I did an unboxing. I never really do unboxings. I was so excited. I did an unboxing of me opening this arrival of the Volkswagen magazine. And I overlaid in it two sound bites. One was the music, the theme song from Space Odyssey 2001. And then over that, the soundtrack of Steve Martin when he's getting the phone book. Things are going to start happening to me now. Somebody.
Oh,
So I
that's
have that
great.
running through my reel there. And I don't create those to get clicks and likes. I love doing it because it just makes me smile. I love bringing back some of that nostalgic stuff, weaving in old stuff with my new stuff. And you see that with that bug back there. I don't know. Once that reaction wore off and at 30 seconds of validation, after that, it was motivation. Because now that it's documented like that, I got to live up to it. When people come find me at the car shows, and because I documented my whole journey of all these modifications, people want to see it. I just wish some of our car shows out here we had some automotive driving events. Besides, I know they got the drag strip, the straightaways, but I want someone to introduce autocross at some of these events. I would tear it up.
Golly, you'd have to hold that'd be like holding on to a freaking crotch rocket, man.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I've been in some of the bigger, 2.2-ish, 2200 cc and a little bit above. They're almost scary fast. They're almost, if your suspension's not dialed in, etc., dude, you're breaking stuff. If you're, that's a lot of power for that little car. A lot of
Oh
power.
yeah. The power to weight ratio is crazy. Like when I tell
Crazy.
people, like, it's probably pushing 200 horsepower. It's basically 2.4 liter. They're like, yeah, that's tiny in
Yeah, they're
today's.
like, ha, 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 my Honda
Yeah.
Civic has that,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. You're
And
like,
and
yeah,
I
but your Honda Civic don't weigh 1,200 pounds.
I come from a lot of cars I've had or have that are high horsepower. Like my first foray into high horsepower car, I still have it. It's a 2004 Mercedes E55 AMG, and it's largely attributed to setting off the assembly line production car horsepower wars. And back then it was 469, but it crushed Porsche and BMW and all those who were kind of coming in the 300s at that point. And a Mercedes drops this 469 and it just launched what we now know as the horsepower wars. And then I had a Ford Raptor, and then I had the Ram TRX, 702 horsepower, Hellcat engine. Yeah, I get it. I love it. So I appreciate, even though this is a lower horsepower one, what it can still do in the power to weight ratio here. So,
That's it. Let's fast forward a bit then and let's touch on we mentioned the Bronco now. So I want to touch on this whole kind of three vehicle story. So for starters, why the Bronco Raptor as the name the Grim One? Tell me what that represents.
all right. Well, the name fits into the whole. I think you kind of touched on it on the intro. Obviously, it started with the Gray Ghost, and then when I realized I was bringing all my vehicles across country, I was like, you know what, I gotta come up with a theme for this. And I landed on the Memento Mori, and I was like, all right, what other characters are there? And there's the Grim Reaper. So I split that into the two. So the Bronco Raptor is the Grim One, kind of like Air Force One, Grim One. And then my trailer is the Reaper's Chariot. Back to the story of the Bronco Raptor. That one kind of came into my life pretty recently because, I just mentioned a few moments ago that I had a Ram TRX. Well, I mentioned also I just got married a year ago. We just celebrated our 1 year anniversary. 2 weeks after we got married, my Ram TRX got stolen from in front of my house.
What?
I loved that truck. It was power, performance. The inside had more luxury than my Mercedes. I was stunned the first time I saw that truck, and I bought it immediately. And they stopped making them because of the EPA requirements. So they stopped, and it immediately made the value of those cars go up even higher. And someone saw it. It was too big to park in my garage. I had it parked right in front of my house, 20 yards outside my window. And we're up a couple floors. I heard it. I heard it start up, flew out of my bed just in time to see it drive away and the chase vehicle all driving away. And oh my God, I was crushed. Probably behind losing my first 67 bug. This is the second most heart crushing story I've got with cars. But anyway, kind of catching up a little bit. After having that experience, it recalibrates your thinking pretty quickly. I wasn't going to go out and just get another one and have that one get stolen. And I still needed something off-road capable. I've got this beautiful 1850s cabin in West Virginia. So it's about an hour and 15-minute drive from here. I'm in Virginia. I needed something to get off-road, and I couldn't get the same truck I had, and I didn't want to get something similar. So I went with this Ford Bronco Raptor because it fit in my garage. It's capable, it's durable, it's engineered to be used hard. Just kind of the way I use my cars. So I have one, the Beetle. That's all about emotion. The Bronco is all about execution. And the Grim One ties this all back to the Memento Mori, not in a dark way, but just as a reminder that strength isn't about sitting still. It's about showing up when called on, man. We got to use these things. I don't have any garage queen cars. I'll put it that way.
No, even
So
even the trailer isn't the type of garage queen feel. Reaper's Chariot, you just mentioned. Why exposed instead of enclosed?
open trailer started by physics, really. So I got kind of shoehorned into a smaller, lighter Bronco Raptor, way lower towing capacity. And I'm just weeks after having my truck stolen and I wasn't really thinking clearly. Forgot that I kind of needed a bed and I needed towing capacity. And after I bought the Bronco Raptor, and I started thinking through going, wait a minute, this one's only got 4,500 pound towing capacity. That's going to be a problem. So I was like, all right, how do I adapt? Uh, Aluminum trailers, they're way lighter. I had to get something super light so that the combined weight of that trailer and the bug could be towed behind that Bronco Raptor. So beyond the math, I kept it open, not only for weight, but I like the visibility. I put all this work into the bug. Why hide it? When I trailered my bug down to Tail of the Dragon for Bugging the Dragon event last year, oh God, we might touch on that one a little bit. That was an awesome event. Those guys put on a great show down there. But
I've actually heard a lot
while,
about that event.
yeah, I'm definitely doing it. Well, I say definitely doing it again. I don't know how much of a hall passing we get after doing this big cross country one, but anyway, during that trip, I loved how people would kind of speed up and pull alongside me just to let their little kids, the kids, like there's four kids in a minivan. They're all leaned up and pressed up against the window, videotaping, and their thumbs up and pointing at the bug. I was like, I had no idea when I got back into this world that it was going to make this much of an impression on other people. Because I did it for me to start.
Right.
Now I love sharing, spreading the joy.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. That's what
so
they say in the culture all the time. It's not the miles per gallon, it's the smiles per gallon.
yeah. Um, and even though it's a open, kind of basically a flatbed,
Right.
I do have a substantial rock guard right on the front. So I'm no dummy. I'm protecting my baby,
Yeah.
but it is open for everyone to see it. So, or intentional choice.
So, do you see these three vehicles as kind of different eras of car culture in one conversation with each other?
Absolutely. I started connecting the dots here. To me, it's the past, the present, and utility. The Beetle represents where I came from. You know, I didn't have a lot of means back then. I made do. It was analog, air cooled, identity driven. The Bronco represents where I'm now, the capability, the engineering, the modern performance. And
Mm,
then the trailer, that's utility. It's it's the bridge that brings these two together so we can all travel.
super
So,
cool. So yeah, to answer that question, yeah. So this trip for you, is it more about showing the car or is it more about what the car can do?
uh, you're gonna get mad at me because I'm never gonna pick one or the other answer. Always gonna say both. Um, so after all the time, money, and energy that went into building the Gray Ghost, I'm not gonna keep it hidden in a garage. This thing deserves to be seen. And the Bronco, um, taking it to do exactly what it was built for. We're going to Baja. Ford says they built these to go straight off the assembly line, and you could go literally go thrash it in Baja. And I'm gonna do it. So, and it's not even just about doing it. Now I'm 56. I'm motivated. I'm doing things while I still can.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
time's
I
finite.
yeah,
And
I
why live
value
generically?
I value the hell out of what you just said. Big time.
Uh,
Especially
I,
nowadays. Like I feel like maybe 45 was like the age for me where, well, where readers came out, where the grasp of, you know, how I guess precious life can be. I look at my kids now, they're teens. My daughter's 20. She finished cosmetology school. She's licensed in the state. She's working in her career. I'm like, oh my God, I still get these Facebook memories from 10 years ago where they're little babies,
oh,
10-year-old kids. I'm like, so again, like I really just value what you just said. But back to the cars, why do you think that so many people out there build cars, build vehicles that they never really truly use? Because that's not you.
I don't have the answer for that. I don't get it.
Because
For
that's
some
not
people,
you.
I guess for some people, the build is the destination. The research, the parts, the craftsmanship, the reveal, that's their fulfillment. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, the build is just the starting line. Um, I've got a neighbor. He's got this beautiful classic Corvette. I'm pointing like you can see where I'm pointing, but we've lived here for 8 years. I've never seen that car on the road. I drive by. I keep forgetting it's there. I drive by and sometimes the garage door's open. I always see it in the garage. I've never seen it driven. I don't get it. When I see it, I think that car deserves some wind. It needs to get out there, stretch its legs a little. Um, for me, when that new suspension and the motor went in on my bug, I didn't spend months polishing it. I had it on Tail of the Dragon 3 days after I picked it up.
Just
I'm
proof
not.
of what you're saying. You're going to drive these things.
So to me, what happens after the build, I think matters more than the build itself. Cars aren't trophies; they're tools for your experience, for creating memories.
Mm,
If I'm not in it, I don't know how I'm creating a memory.
I love that. I love that. All right, man. Act four. We'll call it Act four. Let's touch on Baja and risk. So you mentioned Baja. I want to talk about it just a little bit in detail now. So to bring us where we're at mentally, you park the Beetle and you shift into off-road mode mentally. How big of a switch is it to go from this badass little high horsepower weight, horsepower to weight ratio car to get into another one that's super badass, but now an off-road one? I guess just maybe
Well,
explain the switch to me.
yeah. So at that point, it's not really a Beetle to Bronco switch yet. I During the cross country trip, I will stop at two car shows and I'll take the Beetle off the trailer, drive into the show, and then quickly put it back on the ramp, strap it down, and get on to the next destination. So not a lot of Beetle driving at that point.
Okay.
Uh, Really, it's a highway to Baja switch. So I'm gonna be putting a lot of miles on the Bronco. So the highway driving is about the endurance part. We got cruise control, big skies, listening to music, and this podcast some more. Uh,
Cool.
so it's just time to drift into thought. But shifting to Baja, Baja's alert mode. That's both hands on the wheels, eyes constantly scanning the trails ahead of you. At speed in the desert, the terrain is communicating with you. You're hitting washes, ruts, whoops, hidden edges. You're reading it in real time. There's no glancing down and see your text message or any of that kind of stuff. So
Right, right,
the
right. You're
vehicle
in it.
doesn't change. The vehicle doesn't change, but the intensity does.
What
Um,
what's it feel like, a 5 day run? What's it feel like physically?
so uh, it's coming up in a few weeks, so I haven't driven that yet, but I know it will be physically demanding. I did a last summer, I did a 1 day with the purchase of every Bronco. Ford gives you the chance to go attend an off rodeo event so you can learn the capability of the vehicle. So
Sure.
they got like 5 locations around the country. There's one specifically for the Bronco Raptor, and it's designed for high speed desert trail running. And that's just outside of Vegas. It's put on by Ford, and it was amazing. I'd heard so much about it, and it still exceeded the hype. Um, but I learned that was just a 1 day event. So even with a great seat, climate control, good music jamming, the constant jarring motion, and it wasn't even quite a full 8 hours of driving, but it wears on you. Your shoulders stay engaged the whole time. Your hands kind of stay tight. You got to keep reminding yourself, stop white knuckling it, all that kind of stuff. Uh, so your mind never relaxes, but 5 days of that, um, really, that 1 day event, I was more sore, I think, from grinning like a fool the whole time because it was just amazing. I love driving. Um, but what I hope Baja feels like, uh, is kind of more of a disciplined version of what I used to do with my bug in high school. I had a story prepared where I actually launched my bug, not intentionally, but we had four wheels off the ground in high school. Uh, and back then, that thrill was accidental, but in Baja, I wanted to be more intentional, a little more
Right.
wisdom in my life now. So there'll be a lot of exhilaration, but this time it will be earned and treated with respect.
Touching on off-road driving. Off-road driving, is it more technical skill or is it more mental endurance?
You know how I'm going to answer this one.
Both.
Both.
I knew it.
The
So,
desert doesn't care what your mistake was, technical or mental. It'll
yeah.
punish you instantly. You need technical skill, throttle control, understanding weight transfer, reading the terrain, but you need sustained focus and hours of it. We're going for hours driving at these breakneck speeds, not on pavement.
So
Uh,
what scares you more, breaking the Bronco or breaking yourself? And
all
don't
right, we're
say
going the
both.
opposite. We're going opposite, absolute opposite direction. I'm going to say honestly, neither. Machines can be repaired, people can heal. I've lived through numerous sports injuries, surgeries. Um, the way I live my life, I would be more scared about reaching the end with everything on me intact, the way it was given to me. Because to me, that means I played life too safe. Um, and to me, that has a cost. I didn't do everything that I could have done while I was here. So yeah, I'm not worried about breaking anything.
So the thought of Memento Mori, does the idea hit harder for you in the desert
It's going to be too much action in the Baja area for the reflective thoughts.
to even think?
I think it will hit me harder in the quiet sections, particularly what I call the fourth act, which is the drive home from California. Um, at that point, I won't have a passenger. I've actually got a passenger who's going to ride with me from Virginia to San Diego. Friend Bill Hopper, he's the president of the Washington Automotive Press Association, total car guy. And when he heard about
Cool.
my trip, he's like, "You're not going without me." He wanted in on this trip. He's like, "I can only do the first segment. I'm going to go to San Diego with you and I'll fly back." I was like, "Dude, you serious? That's amazing." Um, so I'll have company on the way out. I'll have adrenaline, the second act in Baja, Third act, cruising Southern California. That's my full circle story moment for once I'm out there. So that's not even going to be a downtime reflective thought. It's the drive home when I'll have time to think about and think about really the impact of the whole Memento Mori and me just grasping it. So thinking about it applies everywhere on the highway, stoplights, everyday decisions. It's not fearing the end. It's about using the time you have before the end.
So we're here kind of on the way back now, the reflection and the return. After extreme terrain, like you just mentioned, you slow down in places like Laguna Beach, Coronado. Why was that part just as important to you?
Because it closes a loop for me. I think I mentioned earlier in the early 80s, my first exposure to the California look bugs. We spent summers in LA at our dad's house. So we'd fly out there, stay with him all summer. And everyone out here thought that was amazing. You get to go to California for the entire summer. Um, but the bad part, I wasn't old enough to drive yet. So I was an observer. I remember seeing these Cal look bugs, being at all the beach towns, the vibe, my brother could drive, so we would cruise, go Manhattan Beach, Hermosa, Redondo, Huntington Beach, and that scene left a mark on me. But I was just watching then. So this time, when I get out to that whole California scene, I'm arriving in it in my own 67, built my way, cruising the same coastlines that we used to see as a kid, but I'm behind the wheel this time. So that's not just geography, that's
Hmm.
completion.
Oh, well said. Returning on Route 66 during its centennial, is that coincidence or is that destiny?
I'll let you guess my answer on this one.
Both. Both.
Both.
I knew it.
Uh, but it definitely wasn't intentional. I wanted the return route to be different from the outbound trip, going from
Okay.
Virginia down to Georgia, hitting the southern air-cooled chill out is the first trip. We're hitting car museums. We've had on our plans to hit the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum. And if you're a car guy and you heard in the news today, he died today. So it's going to add more weight to this Memento Mori trip.
Wow.
We're going to be there in 2.5 weeks after he just passed.
Wow.
And this is why I tell people, do it while you can, because you don't know if there'll be another time that you can.
Right.
If I,
Well,
yeah, it's when I saw that in the news this morning, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, I researched all that, but I wanted something different coming back. I didn't want to retrace my routes. So I started looking into stops. And when I figured out that part of it would be coming back on Route 66, I didn't want to go further north and go through the Rockies because March will still be wintertime, and I did not want to be pulling a trailer through the Rockies.
I've done
So
that. I've done that even in the winter.
yeah,
Yeah, I spent good 9 years of my life in Colorado Springs, and 4 of those years with a 38-foot bumper pull and an F350 dually. And wow, yeah, pulling trailers through the mountains, up
it's
and down, and yeah, some of those.
unpredictable. You could go from Denver and get up and it's not bad before you go through the Eisenhower Tunnel, and when you come out the other side, it's full on blizzard conditions. You're like, how long was I in that tunnel? What happened? Was I in a time warp?
Yeah,
Anyway,
because the divide, the mountain gets so rough, the terrain changes. You go from kind of the flats of Denver west straight into the divide. It's beautiful. It's awesome. But you
so
mentioned stops. I want
well,
to,
I was going to say the Route 66. I started looking at
yeah.
it and as I started Googling it, trying to find stops. I started coming up. It's their centennial year this year, 100 years. This is Americana. This is iconic stuff. And I was like, this feels right. This is America's highway meeting my own story.
Mm,
Uh,
Very
And
cool.
I've started reaching out to some of the organizations that are going to be coordinating stuff. Most of it will be later in the summer when it's a little warmer, but there's some opportunities, little things. They're gearing up for their centennial celebration. But I started looking at it. I'm like, this is reconnecting an iconic piece of American life, while I'm reconnecting with an iconic part of my life.
Return trip.
I thought it was gonna be a long, laborious section of the trip, but I can't wait. I got a lot of photo op stops to stop and check out.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the when you mentioned some Joshua Tree National Park, Cadillac Ranch, Slug Bug Ranch.
Are you
Um,
familiar with that one?
I'm familiar with them.
With slug bug? Yeah.
Yeah.
I said,
Why do roadside relics matter?
well, out there, they're iconic places that I love taking pictures of my bug. Like obviously last fall, the foliage was just perfect. Took pictures. It was great. But those relics out there, I don't we don't see them all the time out here. So I wanted to get in front of that and stage some more photos. But really, they're more than just photo ops. All that stuff represents the past. And particularly, I made a point, so it's a little out of my way, but it'll get me up on the Route 66 faster. Joshua Tree. When I had my first 67 bug, U2's album Joshua Tree was out, and it was one of my favorite albums. I played it all the time while cruising around in my bug. Um, I listened to it constantly. So back then, the anthem was I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Everyone believed that. But this trip, the Memento Mori run, putting specific set of vehicles in specific places, those moments really only happen if you actually go on it. So you can't Photoshop that memory. So you show up for it. I'll take some pictures as well. So I'll detour to Joshua Tree, get the pictures in front of it. Sure, it's symbolic, because back then when the album came out, I still was searching, but now I have found what I'm looking for.
Awesome, man. You said this isn't about spectacle. So for you, what's the real purpose?
I don't think you'll be surprised, but it's using what I have, what I've built. Not just the cars, my life. I've spent decades building a business. I've had kids. I have stability in my life. I've got the capability to do this. So at some point, you have to step back and ask, what was all that for? For me, it's so I can say yes to something like this.
You did it again. Got, got the goosebumps back, man.
I,
You did it again.
I can take the time to do this, and I can drive the miles, and I love that part.
Yeah.
I can see the places. I love seeing in the US. I love seeing around the world. I love that. I love meeting the people. And if you drive a bug, you're gonna meet people. So it's not about the spectacle, it's about the engagement, um, and honoring time by actually using it.
Speaking of, do machines teach lessons about mortality and time?
Everything mechanical starts wearing out the moment you use it. The rubber dries, the metal fatigues, engines break down, but so do we.
So do
Difference is
we.
we expect machines to wear out. We maintain them, we restore them, we rebuild them. But with ourselves, people act like time isn't happening.
Hmm.
Cars don't pretend they're permanent, so I don't. Why do we? And that's not depressing to me. It's clarifying. That's what motivates me to keep going and keep doing this.
So there's people out there in life that are always kind of waiting for the right moment, waiting to do something big in their lives. What advice do you have for them? What would you tell somebody that's waiting for the right moment?
The right moment rarely announces itself. It doesn't knock. It doesn't send a calendar invite. It usually looks inconvenient or expensive or poorly timed. So at some point, you got to stop waiting for those perfect conditions. And you just decide. What's that expression? A boat in a harbor will be safe from a storm, but in time, its bottom will rot out. Still the same result. Both boats eventually just go away. It could die in a storm or it could die a slow, boring life. So
Yeah.
playing it safe has a cost too. It's just quieter.
Amen. Do you expect on this trip to come home the same person?
The same person? Yes. but sharpened, a little clearer, probably more grateful. Trips like this don't change who you are, they just reveal who you are when you strip away the routine.
Mm.
And knowing me, I'll probably already be noodling on my next big idea before I even get home.
I want to hear about it when when the time comes. All right, finish this sentence for me. Memento Mori means.
Memento Mori isn't about fearing the end, it's about using the time you have before the end. For me, it's the fear of getting there and realizing I left too much on the table. When my days are gone, I don't want anything left on my bucket list.
I feel that in every aspect of you, from the time that you revised my outline to the time that you started answering the first questions here on the podcast, man. I feel that. Certainly a unique dude, and you live hard. You probably love hard too, and I appreciate this time with you, man. It's been a pleasure. It's a pleasure to meet you and to be able to interview you. And this
I've
is
had a
what
blast.
this is what I hope for when I set this podcast out. I hope to meet guys like you and just have experiences like this and share stories with people that are all over the world. I've been interviewed guys in South Africa, in the UK, all centered around this same thing, this hobby and this thing that we call the dub life. It's so awesome. All right, I got some rapid fire questions, man. These are questions that demand a fast response. All right.
All right.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Hardest part of the trip: the desert, the highway, or the planning?
Planning.
Planning.
Uh, Driving is the reward. Four
All
months of
right.
prepping for this trip was the grind.
Okay. All right. Uh, for life, you got to pick one: manual or automatic.
Manual. I'd rather participate than be carried. My worst fear
That's a
would
great
be
comeback.
getting stuck in a self-driving car. Oh, God, that would
Oh,
go.
right. Yeah, I don't even have to say the T word, but I know what you're thinking, and I'm going there with you. All right. One tool that you'll never travel without.
All right. People are going to call me out on a technicality and say it's not a tool, but I'm going with spare VW fuses. I can borrow tools anywhere, but you can't borrow 1967 VW parts on the side of a road.
All right, here's one for you. Breakdown in the middle of nowhere or traffic jam in LA.
Middle of nowhere. And I've been mentally preparing for it from planning my trip. But the way I would approach it, first thing I'd do is crack open a drink and just think through the problem, take my time, and enjoy the wide open space.
Mm.
Breaking down in an LA traffic jam, I would lose my mind.
Yeah, there's something about the way I'm wired too. In fact, I'll share a little something with you. Back in the day when I was a new father and had all, my young kids in the car, we had four kids under the age of 5 until my daughter turned 6. When we used to enter large traffic jams, I'm not kidding you. If I was driving, this is no exaggeration, dude. I used to stop, put the car in park. I'd get out of the car and I would ask my wife to drive because my patience and the way that I'm wired, I just couldn't do it. I would just freak out. I hate traffic, so I'm with you there. This ain't about me though, it's about you. All right, another one. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. Here's a great one, in fact. Classic VW smell or new car smell?
Absolutely classic VW smell. You
What?
can find a new car smell anywhere, but an original air cooled, it's getting rare. Enjoy
Yeah.
it while you can, man.
What when you think of the smell of a classic air cooled, where's the first place your brain goes?
First absolute memory was me and my little sister having the ride in a little cubby in the back of our one of my, I don't know what year our parents had for our first VWs. The smell back there, the vibration, feeling the heat from the engine. Man, no kids today will ever grasp or comprehend that feeling.
You know what mine goes to? It goes to the smell of the seats. And,
Yeah.
and that smell is the first Beetle that I ever purchased. I was 16. I mentioned it earlier, 72 standard auto clutch. It gets so hot in Florida and it's so humid here those seats would basically radiate that odor and that smell. And anytime you would open the door, to get in that car, you would be hit with the heat wave of the smell of the seats. And I cherish those memories. I still think about them all the time.
Yep.
Favorite music for desert driving?
All right. We'll break this into two parts because I'll be in the desert, but for the desert driving, I'm all over the board here. It's got to be high intensity stuff. So I'm going to go with like Tupac, Biggie, Metallica,
Let's go,
Ozzy,
buddy.
Led Zeppelin, Black Keys, Kings of Leon, Alabama Shakes, like hard charging stuff.
I
So when you're running
love
fast,
that you said
you
some
want
hip
something that
hop,
keeps up
some
with you.
classic hip hop in the beginning.
Bring some weight and edge to it so you can feel that motion. But the evenings, we got downtime and we'll be having some cervezas, having a Pacifico, just hanging out with all the other people. And like, there's going to be 20 people in this Baja run, exchanging stories, a Pacifico in your hand, sun's dropping into the Pacific. That's where I'm going to go with Camp, Khruangbin, Jack Johnson, Chris Stapleton, Pink Floyd.
Ooh,
That's campfire vibe stuff there.
you're speaking my language again, man. I'm a music guy. Honestly, everybody that you mentioned, sign me up. You and me get along just fine if we were stuck in a car together.
Hey, you know what? When you said you're down in St. Pete, I thought, it probably won't be long before we actually meet in person because my business partner lives down there just south Venice, I think.
Oh yeah. When
Yeah.
I mentioned we used to take our West Coast trips and I'd go down south in my Beetle, Venice, the North and South Jetty. It's a great swell because the Venice, if you look at the geography, I guess, of the West Coast of Florida, Venice kind of sticks out a little bit. That's why it's also the shark tooth capital of the world. Um,
Yep.
yeah, super cool. But we used to hit a lot of ground swells there. But yeah, know Venice super well. Not far from me at all. Not far from me at all. You know where I'm at. St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, not far at all.
So my
Uh,
business partner said, there's space, you come down here. And I'm like, I'm going to take you up on that one day. I'm going to just let this trip cool off. And I'm going to start looking at car shows, VW shows, and come
hey,
do tour it
yeah,
down there.
you got the right guy, man. With Salty Dub, we put on several shows a year, and there's also other shows that are here that are just absolute you have to attend type shows like Florida Bug Jam, like the Weekend Getaway. These are staples in this area of shows that you have to hit. Sanford's got the VW show there. There was over 250 cars there when I was there not long ago. Weather was perfect. It was just beautiful. When you're ready, hit me up. We'll definitely make some plans. All right, I got another one for you. Here's one. What is one thing that you hope that this trip changes about you?
Nothing drastic. Well, first, my wife would not appreciate me coming back a different person.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not trying to reinvent myself. If anything, I just want to sharpen the blade a little, come back clearer focus, deeper gratitude. So not transformation, but refinement.
If the Beetle could talk, what would the Beetle say?
If the Beetle could talk, it would look at both of us and say, why are we still talking? Let's go cruise.
And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.